And keep in mind, if a person leans on you and you're not strong enough to hold them, that means that you didn't do your wellness that week. We got to be able to be strong enough that when a person leans on us, we can stand tall, because one day we're going to lean on someone else. And our expectation is that they stand tall as well. We're supported by the Carter Malone Group. As I always tell you, if you have an idea, if you have a thought that you want to be escalated or come to real life, you call Deidre and say, Deidre, Big Mama left me a cookbook, and I want to take this good cookbook that makes the best jelly in the world. I want to put it in Kroger's or Snooze or whatever grocery store in your neighborhood. I want to sell Big Mama jelly. It can come forth. I really believe this. I saw this one day in some literature. I think it was Dr. Monroe, but don't hold me to that, where he says that the cemetery has more ideas and more knowledge than the hospital. And I said, wow, because many ideas and many dreams are gone by and they never come forth. So I want to challenge you, if you have an idea and this idea really bothers you, you sleep with it, you wake up with it, you got one life, try to escalate that and let it come real. Today we have, can you use the word author?
Author? I mean, I don't have a published book yet.
No, behind this movement.
I am the founder.
The founder, okay. Yeah. So I'm going to say author, he going to say founder, okay? Behind the movement, Up 109.
Up to vote 901.
Is it wrong?
Yep.
And I wrote it down wrong, right?
Up, just like this, right? You see, you say up the vote 901.
Oh, up the vote.
Yeah, up the vote 901.
I'm from Florida, man. Up the vote.
Yeah.
901. Mm-hmm. I saw you on. Well, I know you from before, but I saw you on Facebook. Mm-hmm. You get a lot of the presentation, and it kind of set me down. Mm-hmm. There were some people saying some negative things, and there's some people saying some positive things. Mm-hmm. And you want to get your viewer out there. Mm-hmm. And that's when I texted you and told you, hey, come on my show. Yeah. Talk about it. Can you kind of tell us some things about it? I mean, sure. First of all, how was it created?
Well, yeah. Well, first, I want Brother Ivor to thank you for allowing me to come back to MUTV1. I've been on with my dear brother, Dr. Noel Hutchinson, several times. I've been on with my dear sister and the founder of the Carter Malone Group, Deidre Malone, and so I'm grateful for this opportunity. I think that MUTV1 is a jewel for the people in our community, and the work that you all are doing to try to reach people through media, I think needs to be highlighted even more. So I wanted to take a moment and salute y'all for that. So Up to Vote 901 is an initiative that I started in November 2017. And part of it is rooted in this reality that if you want to maximize the impact of social justice initiatives, and I've been involved in many of them over the years, from criminal justice reform to livable wages, the list can go on and on. But if you want to maximize those things, then you need some progressive policy support behind it, because it's hard to constantly be swimming upstream and trying to work against the grain because of regressive, exploitative, and unjust policies that impact the masses. And here we are trying to organize our 5 or 6 people. So we needed some more allies in places of legislation. And so I started looking at some of the numbers about how people who did not represent the will of the majority of the people kept ending up in seats of political power and influence, whether it be through election or through appointment. And I said, something's going to have to give. And I noticed the trend, and other people have seen this too, that low turnout elections usually yield certain types of candidates that end up in office.
Very true.
And then high turnout elections tend to lean towards what we would now identify as more progressive candidates. So I said, look, outside of the partisanship, whether it be Democrat, Republican, Independent, irrespective of whether it's a city issue, county issue, state issue, or federal issue, if we really believe in democracy like we say we do, then everybody should be willing to put their hand to the plow to increase the number of people who participate in these elections. So we, as Up to Vote 901, started to organize a bunch of town halls, ask people for input and engagement. We developed some strategies of voter education, voter engagement and voter empowerment, because we realize that when people know more about what's happening on the electoral politics side, then they're more inclined to participate. And so some of the apathy that we've seen is legitimate, not only because we have elected people to office who look like us, who didn't necessarily carry through our will, and not only because of all manner of voter suppression tactics, right? But also because, and this could be a voter suppression tactic too, people just didn't have the information. People didn't know. I was at the Nike factory shortly after the Shelby County general election last August.
Okay.
And a brother seen me, I had on an Up to Vote 901 shirt, and he came up to me and said, man, I voted for Hillary, and the Democrats still lost. And I said, okay, I can understand that was a painful election. Did you vote in this county election? He said to me, nah, I couldn't vote in that junk. This is how I say it. I couldn't vote in that junk, man. I live in Memphis.
Okay, education.
Yeah, so he wasn't educated to know that Memphis is the largest city in Shelby County, so the county elections were not just limited to Bartlett and Germantown and Cordova and Collierville, but the majority of Shelby County is Memphis. So, you know,
First thing is, okay, this started last year, right? I mean,
2017, November 2017, we really ramped up.
okay, 17.
I announced it most officially at MLK 50 on the main stage when we started
So we about
solidifying.
round figures.
About a year and a half. Yeah, about a year and a half.
Okay, now, this is my point, okay. Before you came on the scene, or before this right here, then, what about the leaders before you?
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't want to use the word failure, but I don't want to use that word.
Sure.
Okay, but do you think that there was enough initiative to get that education piece out that you're referring to now? Or they did get it out, or are these just new people coming in?
Sure. I think historically you have seen ebbs and flows in all manner of movements.
You're right.
No movement has been flawless or perfect.
That's why I want to use the word failure.
Yeah. I think that, I think about people like, I already said something about Dr. Hutchinson.
Yeah, right.
But I already, Dr. Lucinda Gray, Pastor James Nettles, Sister Maxine Smith, and Brother Vasco,
And white, too.
Yeah, Brother Ralph White, God rest his soul. Obviously people have been doing a lot of work to get people engaged and involved. And I think it's just ebbs and flows because of what's happening socially and politically. And we can never underestimate the sophistication and development of white supremacist strategies to keep us ignorant and to keep us disengaged. So whether you're talking about what Russia did in 2016, targeting African American communities with misinformation and disinformation to make us more apathetic, or other more local strategies to try to keep people disengaged.
When I had this conversation with different people, different people have different ideas. Because most of the time, my ideas are viewed from where I come from or where I am at that time. I want to say, I'm going to be off on some numbers. I want to say maybe 2001, 2002, so I'm off a little bit. Because that's one of the reasons why I invested in Memphis, because I was retired from the military. I want to say Ebony. I could be off now, I want to make sure. Either Ebony or either one of the black publications. It is thing about leaders at the river. It's where our county commission and city commission was all black.
Okay.
Give or take somewhere in there.
I'm pretty sure it wasn't the county commission, but go ahead.
It was doing that cycle there.
Okay.
But as a city or a county community, we still was in poverty.
Yeah.
So it goes what you're saying now. I would say, 20 years later. Later, we still saying the same thing though. Let's vote. Let's get engaged. Let's do this. Let's do this.
Yeah. If the message is true, it's true irrespective of the time. It's always a contextual thing. And at no point, if we say we agree with democracy, should we say voting is unimportant. And historically, we've seen measures that people
the
have gone
education
through.
piece, though, that's the piece.
Yeah.
I want to pull out,
Yeah.
because sometimes we hear the national rhetoric.
Right. So now you're getting, now
You
you
miss
get.
the local rhetoric.
I'm glad you said that. So here's what I think is happening. It makes sense to me. Let me interject. So when we initially started calling ourselves the Memphis Shelby County Voter Collaborative, right? Ultimately, in the age of social media, hashtags catch on, so we were doing hashtag Up to Vote 901. It's important for us to put 901 on the end because national initiatives, national elections seem to get the bulk of the attention.
Very true.
But when you start talking about impact, local elections, especially talking about city or county, if Memphis or Shelby, these usually have much more impact than whoever's in the White House and maybe even whoever's in the governor's mansion. So we wanted to make sure we angled the conversation to focus more locally and to really reach into these neighborhoods where people have been historically disenfranchised and left out. And there's one more thing I think you have to add into the equation when you talk about the shift from late 90s and the early 2000s and the message there versus, 2015.
Black Enterprise. I'm sorry.
That was the name of the magazine.
Yeah,
that was the name of the magazine. Okay, no, that's okay.
It made me invest here.
Yeah.
And that's not what I propped downtown.
Yeah.
Because I said, we're here. We got people who I think understand growth. Black Enterprise came and they did this. They had all these. Harrington was mayor, and they had all these people down by the Mississippi River, in office.
Yeah. Well.
And so okay, I just want to make sure.
So again, I was about to say part of the shift from the late 90s into early 2000. One is coming to grips with the reality of what we now call the prison industrial complex and strategies of mass incarceration. So right now you have nationally 1 in 3 African American males who cannot vote due to felony disenfranchisement. Most objective observers and people who are familiar with the landscape, from Josh Pickler at Just City, Harold Collins, who is now with the Shelby County Reentry, they will tell you in all likelihood it's much higher in Memphis and Shelby County. When you start talking about 1 in 3, it's probably more like 50% African American males just disenfranchised, as Brother DeAndre Brown with Lifeline to Success. And so even if you're talking about having people promote these messages, they are very well the right message if it's talking about getting people educated and getting people involved. But until you have mobilized and organized a group of people that can ultimately usher in more progressive leaders, because you can have people who are your color but not your kind.
Very true.
So you got African Americans in positions of leadership, but the way that they lead and govern based upon how they have been conditioned and the way that they have been educated, they will lead and govern just like white oppressive men and women have in times.
And I think, to me now, they said, this is Taylor and Taylor View. That was the problem there.
Yeah.
Because we said off camera, I believe there's certain things we can create.
Yeah.
I just, this is just my faith that God give us an intellect that we can do some things.
And obviously we thought the people in the past had some wonderful ideas and
I want to beat them down now.
No. I want to build upon that and say, because I don't think that you're beating them down. I think you're trying to ask, how is it that people did wonderful work in times past, and it seems like in this new cycle we are still doing much of the same work. Yeah, yes. I mean, and these
somewhere along the way, my training wheels got to come off. I can't. Yeah. You say, hey, get back on the tricycle.
Well, but you also have to advance when you're oppressing. When the strategies, you have to advance your strategies of liberation as people are advancing your strategies of oppression.
Well, that's true. That's what we're different, because I think that even though I may be oppressed, okay, I think I am. Okay. But still, there are ways that I can get around oppression by. I may have to get 1 hour of sleep versus 10 hours of sleep. And
but you're a human being, so at some point, if you only get 1 hour of sleep, instead of 10, it's going to take a toll.
That's where you're going to take different shifts.
Okay. Yeah. Well, then that would mean you have to have enough people. Organize, so that goes back to the organizing and mobilizing piece. But let me say this, Brother because one of the things that we felt like people did wonderfully in the past that kind of sort of fell to the wayside, and I think the organizers of it would admit, is the Memphis People's Convention. So when we did the People's Convention in 2019, we made no apologies about building upon the People's Convention of 1991. So we reached out and got the support of Brother Shel Wilburn and Sister Barbara Cooper. We had them come to the event, and we highlighted them. Because, again, the strategy, what is the right strategy? How do you organize people in a way that have them educated on the issues more so than an individual? And how do you get them to vote as a block?
Okay.
Representative of the interest.
Okay, my next question. I was not here when they had the first one. Okay.
Me either.
Do you think that looking back at this in history, looking back, that was too long of a distance not to have something in between there?
I would yield to what Brother Shep would say, and I think he would say yes. And that the intentions was to keep it going. And I don't know all of the details. I mean, I had to ask, Shep again, who gave me some of the details. I have to ask Otis Sanford, who did a whole chapter in his book From Boss Crump to King Willie on the People's Convention in 1991. Or you could ask Dr. Harrington. I mean, I think between Shep and Dr. Harrington, there was some, or maybe even Brother Dale Gill and, some others who were part of that. Brother Otis Higgs now is going to be with the Lord, I believe. Yeah. So obviously there were some things that people anticipated at the beginning that didn't continue.
Yeah, that's what that's when I'm a big proponent of writing, because to me, until I think that print does its time.
Absolutely.
Because what happens, I think that if we don't write things down or document things, that the next generation, they're not going to know it and have no idea of it. They'll think that they're doing something new. Yeah. Realizing all they had to do was get the baton.
Well, yeah. And it's how you document it too. So I would salute Sister Wendy Thomas at MLK 50. Because I think it's not just that the first drafts of history are being written in real time. It's that if they don't represent the voices of the people who are most impacted and most marginalized by what is happening at the time, then you end up with the hunter telling the story of the hunted.
But even if they don't represent, still write down.
Yeah, sure. I mean, look.
Still write down. I mean, it's like research.
Yeah.
It may not have come out the way I want it, but you still what? You still write down.
And then I think the flip side of that is making sure that we have people who have an interest in uncovering the historical reality.
And this is where we're talking about it, where to me, Taylor, university comes in.
Sure.
Those young kids who just minds just blossom and stuff. Let it be some type of research assignment or assignment,
So look, when we did the People's Convention, man, we were very intentional about who was going to tell the story and how the story was going to be told. We yielded to the Tri-State Defender, right? More so than like the Commercial Appeal or the Memphis or the Daily Memphian or even the Memphis Flyer, right? We were selective about what the media outlets could video shoot while they were in there, but at the same time, we live streamed the entire event on the Up the Vote 901 page on Facebook, right? Because you have to be careful. You know this. MUTV1, you have to be careful about how you market and brand your stuff if you want the truth to be told.
Also, I want to put in, if you're in the Memphis area or either outside of Memphis area watching our show, I want to say I appreciate you, but also let's give. We can go to Up the Vote.
Look, if you are interested in supporting Up the Vote 901 financially, first and foremost, we have a fiscal agent that we work with, the Memphis Artists for Change. So anytime if you wanted to give a check or something, you can mail that and just email us at upthevote901@gmail.com. We can give you all the information.
Say it again. Up the Vote.
Up the Vote. Up the Vote.
You said I say the. I'm from Florida State. THE. Okay.
I'm from Michigan.
Okay.
By way of Grenada, Mississippi. But yeah, upthevote901@gmail.com. If you wanted to just send something via Cash App, use the $ up the vote 901. We appreciate your donations. It helps us to organize events from block parties. We're trying to look at what it means to publish some materials for people. Voter guides, so on and so forth. Slates like the slate from the Memphis People's Convention. I want to hopefully get a chance to say something about that process and the candidates that were selected there. Not to endorse them, but just to highlight them. Because again, I find this real interesting too. This is a nonpartisan election.
But the mayor party, yes.
Yeah, no, the mayor, the city council, all that.
It's supposed to be, but underline, no.
I understand.
But do me a favor. Now, I'm gonna be off on these numbers now. The average soft drink costs between 90 cents and $1.25. I'm off a little bit there. But let's just say it costs $1. Let's say you drink a soft drink of some form of fashion, a tea, or Starbucks, or whatever it is, once a day. Only thing I'm saying, can you take 1 week and don't do that and try to support this movement? Now, I must say, I've always said, you guys listen to my program, I'm here because of someone helped me. I did not wake up one morning and say, guess what, Taylor? You're going to be financially secure. Guess what, Taylor? No. Someone said, hey, Taylor, get your butt out that bed go see so-and-so and so-and-so, and go so-and-so and so. You're going to sit in this class another hour until you get it right. Her name was Mrs. Lawrence. I'll never forget my typing class. I thought typing was not for athletes, was not for males, it was for females. But today, I am so glad Mrs. Judy Lawrence told me that if I got to type with my fingertips, I'm going to learn how to type.
I'm glad she
And when I got to grad school and got my doctorate, I was so glad that I knew how to type. So it wasn't something that I read. It was something that someone helped us out. So only thing I'm saying, take $3 or $4. You take 3, somebody else take 3, now you got about 100 people doing 3. And let us help this movement, because where you are in life, you didn't get here by yourself now. Even though I think many of you guys think that you're self-made. No. The streets that I drive on, I didn't pay those streets now, okay? The house that I live in, I didn't make the woods. Somewhere, somehow, and when I go to the emergency room, believe it or not, I'm hoping that someone will be able to do what they're supposed to do. So either way, someone helped us in life. Let us put a couple of pennies aside and go to upthevote at Gmail.
Upthevote901@gmail.com.
We're going to get it right before the show is all.
That's all right, bro.
I just want to put that piece out.
Okay. I appreciate it. And by the way, I'm an athlete too.
Okay.
Former athlete.
Okay.
But I type about 60 plus words a minute.
So you're good.
So, yeah.
I can't claim my name, my hand all taped up and everything. Girlfriend told me, she said,
You gonna get it right?
Yeah, I was so glad I got in school.
Man, I want to go back to something you asked me at the beginning when we were talking about Up to Vote 901. You asked me about the Facebook Live that I did that captivated you. It was actually one whereby we were talking about this poll that came out. It was called...
You was kind of frustrated.
Yeah, it was called the Memphis Power Poll. I mean, the frustrating part, because I had just learned more about it that particular day. Before I did that Facebook Live, we were on WLOK. With the Rainbow Push broadcast with my dear brother, Reverend Dr. Andre Johnson. And he started talking about this power poll, and it was basically a poll. I know now, there were 2 law firms out of Nashville, and Blue Cross Blue Shield funded this poll that they sent out to about 489 people, and got like 19% of responses, which ultimately added up to maybe like 90 people or something like that. That responded to this poll, kind of gauging where the mayor's race stood at the time. And they called it the Memphis Power Poll because it was supposed to be 489 of the most influential people in Memphis and Shelby County. And when we looked at the way that the poll was constructed, and they even said on the website that it was not a scientific poll, then I viewed it as propaganda. And I wanted to make sure everybody who had so many questions of how Up the Vote 901 put together our Memphis People's Agenda with a survey that was online that over 2,200 people took. And then how did we get 650 plus people at the Paradise Entertainment Center for the Memphis People's Convention? And, was our results adequately reflective of the majority of the community? Now, if you look at the demographics from the survey, it looked exactly like the city of Memphis. 65% African American, about 30% Caucasian, and about 5% other. It was very diverse across the board in terms of age, from 18 to 24, from 25 to 34. I mean, I had people all the way up into their 60s taking it. And then the convictions that people shared adequately represent what the will of the majority of the citizens of the city feel. And if you've been out in the community, you would know that. And I wanted people to be as critical, dare I even say hypercritical, of this Memphis Power Poll as they was the Memphis People's Agenda. But I didn't see that. Even to this day, I haven't seen any major news outlet write about it, to critique or condemn the way that it was put together, to denounce it as not being scientific, or any of that stuff. And even people who are all up and down our Facebook timeline.
But do you think that it's a concern?
Well, I think that there is...
I mean, you said it should be, but can you look at their side and say, it's no concern?
Who would be the they when you say look on their side?
Whoever the people who, the law firm, whoever, who put that.
Well, I couldn't complain. I mean, I wouldn't expect the law firms out of Nashville or the people
at large, because if the people is not voicing or writing about it, they are that day. So is there a concern? So my concern is when I saw your frustration, in my view. And
I think
if I've been on the other side, I would have said this is a nonsense you know, I would not have validated the poll. And that kind of keep me safe is the same way you're writing, you say unknown author, or you say divorce or whatever. Because I just want to put poison out there.
Yeah. So first I want to say I think I follow your argument, and I would say the people that I would be targeting, my primary audience, since I'm a communication scholar, the target audience that I had for that video, and I said it explicitly, those people who claim to be after the truth, those people who claim to be pursuing a certain type of just ethics in the political landscape, who would say that the reason that they were asking all of these questions about up the vote was because they wanted to make sure that we were representative of our claims, of our ethics, that we represented the majority of the people.
When you said with truth, do you really think that that was their intent?
I'm not sure, but I will say what they won't be able to say is that we didn't try to hold them accountable as we try to hold ourselves accountable.
Well, this is a period. Why do you think that we have to always justify our truth? Use the word truth.
Yeah, I think that we have been conditioned to listen.
Sometimes we just say, "Hey, this is an apple.
Yeah.
Either take it or not."
Right. Well, I'll do you one even better. Not only do we seem to have to defend our truth, many of our own people don't seem to believe it until white people validate it for us.
It's very true.
And here's a prime example.
That's what I'm saying.
How many times have we talked about what was happening?
Why do it?
How many times? I mean, because there's so much at stake. The truth is always worth fighting for.
Yeah, but I guess okay. This is an apple. But I have to validate it, and I got to say it over and over and over and over.
It depends on if your point of describing and defining the apple was simply to claim your own individual autonomy, then go for it. Don't explain it. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who believes it or not, whether it's true or not.
Because the people,
but if the purpose of
this is, they're the one who fight, and the apple don't help them.
Right. So that's why you have to fight. Because, ultimately, the purpose was not just to define it or claim your own individual autonomy. It's to empower others who would benefit from knowing that this is indeed an apple.
See, to me, and I guess I'm up in age now.
Yeah, look, it's always interesting.
Somewhere along the way, I got to say, he's been telling me 10 years about this apple.
Yeah.
Maybe I need to bite this apple because it's going to help me with my digestive system.
Yeah.
It's going to help me with my fiber and all this kind of. Somewhere along the way, I got to take some ownership of who I am of my life. Right. Somewhere along the way.
Sure.
But it just might be.
Yeah, well, no, I mean, I agree with you, man. Look, so we don't just advocate for systemic accountability. We also advocate for personal responsibility. Okay. But let's be very clear.
Yeah, okay.
The majority of the people you were talking about, whoever this they may be, they don't spend as much time advocating for systemic accountability as they do personal responsibility.
Very true.
We love to beat up on individuals because we feel like we can't fight a system.
Right.
But the fact is the system encounters and impacts many more people than an individual does. That's why I said if you're going to maximize your social justice initiatives, you need progressive policy support. That's a systemic thing.
Okay, well, let me ask you, okay. We're 2 years old. I'm a round figure. You're 2 years old.
Okay, cool.
Well, if you ever get some funding behind you, but,
yeah, no, listen.
I'm going to push it for my show, sir.
Hey, I appreciate it.
And I'm going to give it too. Where you guys go from here?
Man, listen, here's our mission and vision. It's very clear. We want to give more political power to more people through information and representation. And we want to increase voter turnout in Memphis and Shelby County at least through 2020. I'm clear. If we had half of the funding that a lot of these other organizations have, you would see a seismic shift in information, representation, and power being given to people who often are left out, especially people in North Memphis, South Memphis, Fraser, Hickory Hill, Binghamton, so on and so forth. Like places where we are represented in mass and very densely populated, but when you start talking about what the will of the people who live in those spaces are, it doesn't seem to be reflected in our public policy.
Okay, now, example, okay. Say, for example, I Taylor came to convention and I said everything, I supposed to say.
Yeah.
And the people I said everything, and they put me in, now. And if I don't hold up,
right,
are you guys going to fact check me?
Look, let me tell you what I said to the people. So the People's Convention selected Tammy Sawyer for mayor.
Yeah, I remember.
Selected Patrice Robinson in District 3, Brittany Thornton in District 4, Theron Bond in District 6, Michael and Easter Thomas in District 7, Pearl Eva Walker in Super District 8-1, Frank W. Johnson, Super District 8-2, Erica Sugarman, Super District 9-1, and Mauricio Calvo, Super District 9-2. All of them can attest to what I'm about to say. And Sister Tammy Sawyer, who was county commissioner now, can attest to me saying this well before she even made up her mind if she was running.
Okay.
No matter who is in that office,
Okay.
if they do not do what ultimately improves the quality of life for the majority of the
What's the
citizens.
platform?
That's why the agenda is central.
Okay.
If you don't hold true to what the agenda is, we come in for you.
Okay.
We come for you. So people think
Now, this makes sense. In other words, what they're saying is that they want policies for all of us.
Mm-hmm.
For, you know, whether my pigment is dark, green, or yellow, or whatever it is, it's for all of us. And if you go against the platform that you say that you will cover, they're gonna call for you.
Yeah.
And I think that it's worth us investing in. It's worth us giving to.
Yeah. And if anybody want to look, you can Google Memphis People's Convention, Memphis People's Agenda, and get all of the information about it.
That's when we get some money behind you. Because,
Yeah, no, I appreciate it.
Because what it is, if we get some money behind you, now we can hold you accountable.
Sure.
It's the same thing I've heard many people say, if I didn't vote, I have no voice.
Yeah, well.
Not to debate the issue, but anyway.
Right, because if you don't vote, then you vote for the winner by default.
Right. So either way, I'm voting.
Because to not vote is not rebellion, it's surrender.
Right. That's why I said I debate that issue
Yeah.
when they say that. But if I put money behind you or invest in you,
Yeah.
now I can really criticize
Yeah.
you. But you say, hey, Taylor, you really have.
Yeah. And I want you to be very clear about
let's
what.
put money behind.
Yeah.
And when I say criticism, that's good and bad. I don't mean
Yeah.
you step on some bubble gum. No. That's not. I mean, you say, I'm going to give you every month. I want you guys to get out there. In other words, take your little vacation every now and then. Bring some ice water. You know, it's just like I was telling a group. I can't run 5 miles no more, but I can sure get a pom-pom. And when you come back,
Look.
I can give you some water.
Look, think about the way
Let me see a
you.
little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Think about the way that you are curious about the People's Convention, the People's Agenda, and all this other stuff. We may have raised $7,000, $8,000 total to do all of that work that we've done. Like what we were pushing with the agenda when we got over 2,200 people to fill out the survey. I mean, we didn't have law firms,
Posters and all that kind of stuff.
you know what I'm saying? We didn't have Blue Cross Blue Shield as a
Yeah.
Fortune 500 company, bro. You know, can you imagine the type of impact we could have had if we would have had money behind it? But the reason people don't really give to this initiative is because they really don't want to see a change in the landscape.
You really think so?
Absolutely. I think that we have been content with and conditioned by the current landscape. So what we try to do now, instead of changing the landscape so that it would be more just, we just want to negotiate and manipulate our seat in the unjust environment. We want to get closer to positions of power, then more so than we would want to hold people who are in power accountable.
See, we're different now.
Okay.
My age group, my little circle, we want things better, but every now and then we go back in our mind and say we've seen this before. And by being closer to the convalescent home or closer to whatever we're going to call it, if we're not cautious with our thinking, we get complacent.
So yeah, so now I think we're saying the same thing. No, I think we're saying the same thing. Now let me use again the sister who I evoked earlier, whose work we honor, Sister Maxine Smith, was at the National Civil Rights Museum in 2008 for a conference on the commemoration of the assassination of Dr. King 40 years later. Don't forget 2008 is the year that President Obama was being inaugurated too. And so I remember somebody asking her, because I was part of a panel that took place earlier that morning, and then in the evening she gave a keynote address. Somebody asked her, why did she feel that Dr. King's dream didn't come into fruition more in 40 years? Here's what she said. I've lifted this up several times. She said, and this was the first time I heard somebody in her age range say this, a lot of it is my generation's fault, she said. She said, we got comfortable with a little steak and potatoes, a little Cadillac in the driveway, a little house on the hill, and we forgot to tell the story of the struggle.
I totally agree with him.
So, insofar as we won't tell the story, it's hard for us to cultivate the mentality to keep fighting to hold people in power accountable. And when you get your own steak and potatoes and your own house on the hill and your own Cadillac, all of a sudden you feel like you have a little privilege.
Seriously.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying. I think we're saying the same thing.
I'm telling you, I can see that with it. Seriously, because
And so now where we are challenging people in power, on the one hand, when you start to assume power, now all of a sudden you're like, well, wait a minute. And this is why I said explicitly to the people who won the People's Convention, hey, when you get in the seat, if you get in the seat and the conditions don't change and you're not following this agenda, we coming after you. And I ask people in my church to come after me if I'm not being responsible to my pastoral office.
yeah. Now, you and I agree that because, and also Sister Robinson, I do understand it because what happened is, I used to believe in black wealth, like what you call it, generational wealth.
Generational wealth.
My third grandchild.
It was good till 2008, huh?
Well, what it was.
When that housing market crashed,
I tried it, right? Mm-hmm. It didn't work. And I said, as a friend of mine said, Taylor, it's not going to work. Mm-hmm. But I'm finding out that third or fourth generation doesn't have the passion you have to do what you want to do. And now things are so global to them that they're saying, Dad, I don't want to go in the healthcare field, Daddy. Mm-hmm. Dad, I don't want to go in the agriculture field, Daddy. Mm-hmm. I want to go in video gaming. Mm-hmm. Well, when you got started, you didn't know anything about video gaming.
They didn't exist.
So now you left them millions of dollars. Mm-hmm. I said, Daddy, I'm going to live on the river, Daddy, with a penthouse. I'm not going to have this right here. Yeah. And I said, wow. And the more research I do, I'm finding out that, as a whole now, that third generation, when it comes to physical, to tangible wealth, and I remember my mom telling me, she said, what I want to leave to you is a desire for hunger. Yeah. Well, I was young. I was thinking hunger means eating and stuff like that. But she got a mindset, drive. And I'm finding out that if we can leave the next generation the drive, that hunger, then we won't have to keep doing what you're doing today.
Yeah, well, I think, Maxine.
And that's my view.
Yeah, no, look, I agree with you too. I know there's going to be some points that we divert on, but this is not one of them.
Conversation, man.
Yeah, but look, this is not one of them. Because I think Maxine also talked about how when you don't tell that story of the struggle, you do it in part because that struggle scarred you so much you don't ever want your kids to have to go through that same thing.
Very true.
So that's the gift and the curse, because on the one hand, you call yourself protecting them, but sooner or later, life is going to happen. And if they don't have that drive that you talked about, because a lot of times it's that struggle that creates that drive. And so now you see, I think, a generation of people emerging, or dare we even say re-emerging, because we do stand on the shoulders of our elders and ancestors. So now you see people re-emerging because we have been reintroduced to the struggle, because we bought the idea that we could socially network our way out, that we could basically save our way out. And so the reason I brought up 2008 housing market crash is because that's when a lot of people who were building generational wealth lost it.
Yeah, they lost their money.
Not that we didn't do right, but look, the government was the government was intentional in predatory lending, constantly engaging in redlining, which means what? People put together public policy that made this thing either not only possible, but in a lot of instances more likely to happen to black and brown folks. And so now we got a legacy of leadership, people who've been in leadership 20, 30, 40 years in public office, who don't even want to take any credit for the bad stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Man, this is ridiculous. So that's not what accountability looks like, and that's not what we believe political authenticity looks like. So we don't want people around here talking about democracy and talking about majority rule, but are content with 15% of registered voters coming out to vote. Yeah. And so you have people. I'll say this lastly. You have people, young and old, that have been cultivated in this environment that instead of expanding the playing field, will rather just figure out how to manipulate the smaller playing field for themselves. And we just don't support that, man. That's not democracy.
Well, our time has come to an end. And please come back, seriously.
Man, anytime, man. Again, salute to you and MUTV1, Sister Deidre Malone and the Carl Malone Group, Brother Noah Hutchinson, and all of the wonderful people at this.
And we'll be doing some great things now. Miss Oliver, she's good.
Yeah.
She's good, right?
Yeah.
One more time,
Okay, we're gonna try again.
upthevote901@gmail.com. You can find us on Facebook at upthevote901. You can text upthevote901, all one word, to 797979. Want to make a cash donation right
Please
quick?
do. No, seriously.
Dollar sign on
let's
Cash
do it.
App.
Let us deny a couple drinks. I mean, or hamburger, or whatever it is. I mean, whatever. Now, I'm not saying if you're a tither with your church, I'm not saying take that away. No, that's not what I'm saying. But if you have a couple of pennies aside, let's do this right. Last weekend, a couple weeks ago, I was in Louisiana, Lexington, I think was what it was. I was there for a funeral of one of my friends died. And this guy, he was from Xavier, older gentleman. And he was Xavier all the way through. And it's just, he energized me. And I'm not from Xavier. The wife is from Xavier. So he was just all energized and everything. I said, sir, how'd you get where you are now? He said, Xavier is all in my bones. You know, and me, I was like, sir, how did you get there? He says,
Same way I got Lemoyne all in my bones.
he said, if it wasn't for Xavier, I would not be where I am.
If it was not for the Lemoyne College.
But it was all, I mean, it was just,
Oh, yeah.
and I said, I was just fascinated, right? Because he had that energy, and he told me, he said, I give to my church. I think he's an Alpha, I think what he was.
Oh, that's a wonderful
And
fraternity.
he says,
The best fraternity.
well, you guys know I'm sick. Anyway, okay, and he said, and I give to Xavier. I said, sir, why? He says, I told you, the older guy, he said, I told you before, I'm here because of Xavier.
Yeah.
And I want to make sure the next generation have more than what I have. And I just grabbed and hugged him, right? And I said, man, wow.
Yeah.
Can you imagine if that type of feeling, or that hunger, if we can energize that in this October?
Yeah, man, look, we would love it.
Man, say, I'm here because these brothers say, we're going to read this line here. We're going to pick up the trash in my neighborhood, too.
Yeah. We're going to do development in our neighborhoods that impact the people in the neighborhoods, that employ the people in the neighborhoods. They get them livable wages. They get them.
I was doing a thing on that. And, the guy, my neighbor, he asked me for his vote, for my vote.
Yeah.
I said, well, is it city or county? He said, city. I said, well, you guys gonna continue to pick up my trash on time? Because that's what city does. And I find that a lot of people don't know the duties of who's voting.
Education,
baby. So I said, well, in my neighborhood, they bring a rake. When they pick up the trash on Saturday, they rake it up. But where I have investments are, I have to constantly call and tell them, you guys pick the trash up, but it's all over the street. And to me, the same guys who pick the trash up, it's just a different route.
Yeah.
But
that's another show for another time.
let's make sure that we get up. Seriously, I mean, if you have the old days, we used to get a coffee can taped up and put a little thing on there. You guys,
Let me say, if you want to send a check, send it to, make it out to Memphis Artists for Change, and put Up the Vote 901 on the memo line.
Memphis what now?
Memphis Artists for Change. Artists for Change. But put Up the Vote 901 on the memo line, and you can mail it to 3890 Mill Branch, 38116.
3890?
Yep, 3890 Mill Branch, 38116.
That's okay.
Yep. So if you want to do check, if for those who are tech savvy, you want to do cash out, $ Up the Vote 901.
Let's be giving, and I'm gonna say it again. Now, October what?
October 3rd is the election. Early voting starts September 13th.
September 13th?
Yep.
Okay, also, I must be registered by when? Or it's too late?
September 3rd, so we got a few more days.
Okay.
A few more days.
Okay, September 3rd, you have to be registered before 18 years old?
Yep,
Okay.
18 years old.
Register to vote. The 13th,
Early voting.
all right?
During early voting, you can vote at any open precinct, no matter what precinct you are assigned. On election day, you have to go to the precinct that you have been assigned to. You can also register online at upthevote901.com, and if you email us, we will help you find today where your precinct is. Do not wait till the day of. We encourage everybody to vote early and vote quickly, right? Because if there is a mistake that you encounter at the ballot box during early voting, it gives you time to rectify it before election day.
And remember, your vote count. Don't let no one tell
Please
you
don't let them fool
that
you.
one vote don't count.
Listen, if you get your little posse, your little buddies, your little co-workers or girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever the word is out there, register to vote. If you're not sure, call.
UpToVote901.com.
Right. Make sure,
UpToVote901@gmail.com.
one vote does count. Because with the mayor race, it's not a percentage by a win by, is it? Or it's just
No, whoever ends up with the most votes.
So if I win by 2 votes, one
You
vote.
win by 2. You
Okay.
get it.
So that one vote counts. It does count, seriously. As always, bro, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Taylor.
I really appreciate it, okay? And as I always say, text someone, call someone, even if you have to take a message and put it around a pigeon and tell someone you appreciate them, because what? When you're in life, you get here by yourself. I lean on you, and you lean on me. Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Deidre Malone, the host of Dialogue with Deidre. You can find us on the M1 TV network on YouTube. Subscribe and follow us. You can also find us on Facebook at M1 TV Network, Twitter, M1 TV Network 2, and Instagram, M1 TV Network 2. Please follow us so you can keep up to date with what's going on the M1 TV network with Dialogue with Deidre and Black Thought.